As promised, the South Boston walnut walk-in closet. Let's go. As you can see, we've completed the walk-in closet. There's tons of space in here. Right when you walk in, we're going to have this adjustable shelving. And a lot of the times when you don't have anything to stop the front of those shelves, these shelves can actually slide out or even tip down, causing whatever's on them to fall off, causing damage to the items, to your cabinetry, and even to yourself. So one of the things that we like to do is a combination of things. We end up using these little stoppers in the back. They just mount right into your typical shelf pin. So they compress in a little bit and slide right into an existing shelf pin hole so that it puts the pressure on the back side of your shelf so that this shelf can't tip. If we go ahead and remove both stops, you can see that this shelf wants to tip upwards. These will help prevent that as well as keep it from sliding forward a little bit more. And they're relatively hidden in the back here. So just below this adjustable shelving, we have these two doors here, and they actually tip down into hampers for your dirty laundry. As they're in here changing, they can toss the dirty laundry in here and put everything away nice and out of sight. Because the way we had to fabricate this closet with there being no backs on here, we needed to be strategic about the way we were adding our fixed shelves to keep everything rigid. So we have the fixed shelf here that kind of acts as a countertop as well. And even the top shelf is actually fixed, so it keeps everything nice and square and fastened together. Every one of these top shelves is actually fastened with a series of lamellos and dominoes. Another reason for fastening everything with the lamellos and dominoes is that we weren't able to bring fully assembled cabinets up here. Everything needed to be assembled here in the space. We're going up 3 flights of winding stairs, so it was difficult to bring all these items up, being that they are so large. It was even challenging bringing up some of these pieces individually because they are so long. One of the other challenges we had in this space, all of these pieces are not only scribed to the back wall, but also to the ceiling. And we're kind of going floor to ceiling. So to get these pieces in, these vertical uprights, was pretty difficult. So one of the things that James, our lead installer, came up with was to actually set the ledgers in the back and the feet in the front 3/4 of an inch lower than what we typically do. This allowed him to get enough space to actually put the uprights into place over the dominoes, over the lamellos, clip everything in, and then just slide a 3/4 inch shim piece of plywood in between the ledger and the cabinet, allowing us to go right up tight to that ceiling. So as we continue through this closet space, you can see we have a ton of hanging storage. So double hanging bars in both bays. Below we have some open cubbies for additional items. There's even an outlet in the back of this cabinet, as well as in a couple other locations to allow the clients to plug in phones or tablets or really anything that they need to have power in here for. And then right behind me, this is actually going to be more of a dresser. We actually ran into some delays with our drawers. They'll be lagging by about another week or so. As you can see, they're much deeper than a standard drawer. So we're able to get a 27-inch drawer here for the bottom two. And because the roof starts to slant here, we can get 24-inch deep drawers for these top two. We're doing this on both sides. These drawers are tall and deep, so there's going to be tons of storage in here for them. This stack here is actually the drawer fronts for this area, and yes, of course, everything is grain matched and the two sides are also book matched. So this is gonna look really nice when you walk in, and that's the first thing that you see. And we even have this really cool shelving system up top here. These are all fixed shelves, and because the roof does start to slant, each one is at a different depth. This also posed quite a bit of a challenge to scribe that angle on the back side of these cabinets, everything being at a different depth. Just a really challenging install, but at the end of this project, this looks really cool. So all of these spaces are equal in height, but vary in depth, allowing for a variety of different storage there. And also over here, we have the hardware for the drawer fronts here, and even a couple extra shelves, and I'll show you why in just a second here. As we continue through, we have another double hanging rod here, as well as a single with some fixed open shelves. Again, just some more space for them to store miscellaneous items and boxes. And you'll notice at the top here, we actually doubled up the amount of fixed shelf storage up there. Things like overflow shoe boxes and what have you. And in this last corner over here, the shoe rack. So all those extra shelves that I just showed you were taken from here. So all of these shelves are adjustable. You can fit various size shoes in there. The extra shelves came from this lower portion here, where the homeowner has some taller boots that she would like to store. These shelves, similar to the shelves here behind me, would also be able to slide out, and actually because they're at an angle, would just kind of slide and fall out anyway. So a couple things that we did here was we actually notched in for our shelf pins. This is going to allow that shelf pin to drop right into the back of our shelf and keeping it from sliding forward with that angle. We also cut an angle on the back side of our shelves so that we are able to push these up nice and tight to the wall. And the last thing in this shoe rack was just to add these shoe fences here so that once your shoes are on here, they don't slide off the shelf due to that angle. One of the things that you might have noticed as we're kind of touring through here is that there are no visible fasteners holding the system to the wall. So how do we accomplish that? Because there are no backs, this was a little bit more difficult, but luckily with all these fixed shelves, we're able to attach some cleats to the fixed shelves and mount them to the walls that way. So if you actually look under here, you can see that all the way in the back under this top shelf, we have a cleat that's mounted right to the wall. We did this on the lower side across as well, and even on the very top. So that way these are not able to tip or move at all. Everything is secured and fastened right to the wall. So that's gonna do it here in the closet. So we showed you guys this coffee bar a couple weeks ago, but now that we have it just about wrapped up with hardware and plumbing, let's take a closer look. So one of the big differences you'll see is the yellow tape is gone and we now have hardware on these doors. Opens right up into our finished product here. We have built-in sink. The sink and the faucet are both in. The electrical outlet with the switch for the lights is in. In the last video, some of you guys thought that this box was cut a little bit too big. That was actually because we were adding a third receptacle into this unit here. And yes, we're going to swap these over to black, so they are a little bit less noticeable and don't stick out so much. Now, if you remember from the last video, we have a lighting track hidden over here on the left side. So once we turn on our lights, there we go. Nice bright space to illuminate this area once you are making your coffee, especially in those winter months here in New England, when this space will be dark in the morning. So having this light will be super helpful. Similar to what we're doing in the closet, we're going to add stoppers as well as shelf pins that have a vertical pin on them as well to lock these shelves into place. We currently have these taped off to not move them because you can see they will just slide and possibly fall out, causing damage or harm. So we don't want to leave these in, and we will be taking these shelves out before we leave. And a couple other things we did in this unit. We did this built-in walnut bookcase. This is actually flush in line with this finished lime plaster. Looks great, a nice little warm detail in here on that fireplace. But we also made a vanity here, so let's go ahead into the bathroom and take a quick look at that. So here we have the vanity. It's a double vanity, almost 8 feet wide. We have this stained, kind of antiqued finish on here. It looks really sharp, it fits the space incredibly well, and everything has integrated pulls, so it makes opening these drawers super simple. And we even have full drawers, both top and bottom. All 8 of these are actually fully functioning. We're able to hide a lot of the plumbing in between some of these drawers, and there's actually a bunch of condensate drains in here and the radiant controls behind some of these drawers. Things that you're not going to access often, but still need to have. And it's nice to have them out of sight. Everything here is grain matched. It does wrap onto the end panels as well. And with that, we're going to wrap this episode up. So please drop us a comment, leave us some questions. We go live every week on Instagram and answer these questions. And stay tuned right now for that live segment, and we'll catch you guys later. Thanks.
Let's jump right in. Why are the sauce hinges on the coffee bar door unevenly spaced?
Yeah, so the bifold doors, we do unevenly space the hinges, and it's the same for even just the regular European hinges. And the reason is, these guys are killing me over here. We have an audience today, and they're
Ken's letting
they're a little bit wild.
A little bit here.
So the reason is actually the manufacturers do spec them out to be spaced out at that distance. It's halfway between the hinge and the halfway point, so almost a quarter of the way, but it's offset by the height difference between the top of the door and the top hinge.
Right.
So it's not just a quarter of the way down the door.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is it helps support the weight of the door, so the door's not tipping and adding that extra sag and weight to any of the other lower hinges.
Okay.
Keeps it a little bit more supported at the top, so it takes the sag out of the door.
On some of the face frames, there appears to be like a double domino. What's that about?
So when we're scribing, when we scribe an applied filler, so it's attaching to our face frame, the way we like to make it easier on ourselves to set up these scribes is doing the double domino so that we can attach the further hole to the face frame, or cabinet box rather, so that we can have a space there and get our scribe line nice and clean without having to kind of awkwardly position that piece in the space, the given space. And then we go back and we have that dominoes already cut for the space. I feel like I'm doing a poor job of explaining this without being able to see it. Yeah. So just it helps with that scribing process.
Okay.
And when we are cutting those in, we're using the same location marks for the standard dominoes that we're using for the scribing dominoes. So it's really just one line, and yes, it's two setups, but once you're kind of going through them, changing the height on the domino machine is very easy. We just drop it down to the lowest setting, highest setting, so that we can get the deeper cut on the piece, and everything's in line. There's no more setup really, so it doesn't really take much additional time.
Right.
Just a couple extra minutes to punch out the second holes, and we don't do every hole. It's every couple of holes that we'll add that domino to.
Do we install the appliances?
We do, yeah, to an extent. So we've showed you guys before that we're getting the appliances right here in our shop so that we can make sure that the panels that we're making fit and the spacing works out, and more importantly, the dimensions are what the manufacturers say they are. We've run into issues before. We've talked a lot about this. Yeah, these guys over here. So we run into issues with sizes before, so we like to have those here. And then when we get into the field, because we're making these tolerances so tight, we are installing a lot of these appliances. We are working with the electricians and the plumbers to make sure that they're installed correctly. A lot of this stuff requires a gas line or a water connection, things like that. So we do want to make sure we're working closely with them to make sure they are installed correctly.
Right.
But we also want to make sure that we're not causing any damage to the surrounding cabinetry, to the appliance itself, and that our panels are installed correctly to our specs. So, yes, we are working closely with them.
There is a question that came up, I remember seeing. Where does one find these appliances that have...
Now he's getting you, huh?
that are ready to have a cabinet face frame put on it?
The panelized appliances?
Yeah.
So a lot of the manufacturers do make a panel ready or an integrated appliance, where you can swap out that stainless steel face for a finished panel. When you're getting the panel ready, they actually don't come with the stainless steel face. They're just a typical empty kind of front panel, so you can apply your own. Yeah.
So those special order, or is that something you can get?
No, it's pretty standard appliance.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you can go to Home Depot and get something like that.
But an appliance store.
Right.
How do we install the light track and plug?
So this is jumping into this week's video. So the light track, or I'm sorry, last week's video.
Last week's, yeah.
The light track is, so on all of our cabinetry, on the bottom side, we're putting what we call an under cabinet skin, which is just an additional piece of 3/4 inch. Typically we use MDF for this so that we can paint it cleanly, right? If we're doing a wood-toned cabinet, we'll go ahead and make sure that that's a wood-toned panel. But all we're doing is putting a dado through that panel, and then for the light track, we're adding a dado in there. The aluminum extrusion slips in. We're able to put the LED tape and then pop on the diffuser, making sure everything's flush. With the plug molds, we're actually stopping that under cabinet skin in front of where the plug mold's going to be. The plug molds are much deeper, so they require a little bit more space. We can't dado that out. So the plug mold will mount directly to the bottom of the cabinet. Our cabinet skin will butt up to that, and then we add an additional cabinet skin in the back to fill the gap between the plug mold and the back of the wall. So one of the questions was, how are we doing all of this, like the data with the light track? without compromising the integrity of the bottom of the cabinet.
Right.
That's because we are adding this additional piece, so we're never actually touching the bottom of the cabinet box itself.
Boom. Got a question here. What kind of LED skins do y'all use?
LED skins? LED strips, maybe?
Probably strips.
We actually leave that up to the electricians a lot of times. There is one model that we continue to use, but I don't recall what that is off the top of my head.
Lutron?
No, Lutron's mostly the switches, but the actual brand of the LED strip, I don't know. I'll have to get back to you.
It's on the tip of my tongue. I feel like it begins with an L. And that diffusion, that's something we do, right?
Yeah.
So you don't see the little.
Yep, that usually
dots.
comes with the aluminum extrusion.
Yep.
So it snaps right into place and then pops off pretty easily if you ever need to take it off for servicing that.
So on last week's video, you saw this Beacon Hill kitchen we did, and the countertops ride right into the bottom cabinets.
Yep.
You called it an appliance garage. Someone was concerned about how these sides are, holding the structure.
Yeah, so because we don't have a bottom of that cabinet, right, the sides can very easily kind of move around. Yes, they are screwed in on the back side of that panel, but if we're coming out 18, 20 inches, the size of that larger appliance garage, the shorter ones are only about 12 inches, but you're going to get some flex in the front there, right? Especially with hanging the doors off of there, they could move very easily. So what we do is actually have a fixed shelf. The lowest shelf is a fixed shelf. Typically we go about 18 inches up, which is kind of a little lower, but on the lower end of the standard cabinet space between your countertop and your upper cabinets. So we'll put a fixed shelf there so that, yes, your cabinets can slide through. There is a little bit of rigidity to that shelf, a little bit of, possible movement on the bottom if you really cranked on it. But we also silicone those pieces down, not just to help hold it in place, but to also help with any spills.
So water's not...
Exactly. We go ahead and edge band and finish all the bottoms of those cabinets anyway, so that water doesn't seep up into the pores of the wood. But taking that extra precaution, again, with the silicone helps in a couple different ways.
When we did the coffee bar install, you're doing a lot of scribing, and something you talked about is putting a bevel on that first cut.
Yeah.
So when you went to sand, and dial in that... Sorry,
sleepy
I don't know why I keep yawning. And dial in that scribe. What angle are you using for that back bevel?
Typically no angle in particular. If we were using the table saw, we would set it to like a 15 degree, or the track saw even. We usually go 15 degrees, 10 to 15 degrees, somewhere in that ballpark. But with the hand plane, we're not setting it to the power planer there. We're not setting it to any particular angle. We are just kind of making sure that there's a pretty sharp bevel on there, so that you're not having to remove too much material when you do go for the finer, filing or raz or belt sand or whatever your preferred scribing method is. But you also don't want to make it too steep where your scribe angle going into the wall is too thin and can kind of bend and break and cause some issues there. So about 10 to 15 degrees is what we would go for if we were cutting it, but really just kind of eyeballing it to make sure that you have enough meat left on there that your piece isn't going to be too flimsy, but not enough that you're sitting there scribing with a file for 3 days.
I have a question, not on the sheet, but it's something we've been talking about, and I think it's something relevant to woodworking and construction as a whole. So on the NS Builders main account, Nick posted a clip of the built-in cutting board.
Yeah.
That has a hole in it. It comes out over the trash can.
Yep.
So you cut up your whatever and you can slide the stuff in the trash, and it's kind of a quick plethora of comments.
I saw that.
How this, it wouldn't be standard in a commercial kitchen,
It's a good thing we're not making commercial kitchens.
Like any, cook worth their weight would never use this, blah, blah, blah. On and on and on and on.
Right.
I think what it boils down to is people are losing sight of what design is a little bit. Because this was designed for the individuals who are occupying this kitchen.
Right.
From what I understand, they're not commercial chefs or chefs in general.
Nope. I don't even think they cook that often.
I got the feeling this is kind of a cutting board. I'm going to cut up a lime for a drink. I'm going to cut up an avocado for my toast, a tomato for my sandwich, and I want it to be as slick as possible.
Yep.
Walk me through this, like where people are kind of, you're stepping on my cord. Sorry. You're stepping on my cord, Ken. Jeez.
I'm sorry, Billy.
Kind of walk me through, people love to kind of chime in and get their 2 cents and be heard and all that, which is great.
Yeah.
And there's some good constructive criticism. But let's kind of walk through, like, I think people lose sight. They might not even watch the whole video. They just have to say what they have to say quick.
Yeah.
And how does that kind of, I don't know where the question is in there. I just kind of want to get your thoughts on that.
Look, I'm not the biggest fan of that design personally either.
Right.
It's not something that I would put in my house.
Right.
In the whole design process, we want to make sure that we're giving the clients what they want, but also making sure that they understand the functionality of everything, and that if it's something that we don't agree with, we're going to give them a bit of a pushback and explain why. We're not just going to dictate why we want to do something, right? If, it doesn't look good, we don't want to do that.
Yeah.
We want to let them know why and inform and educate them. So we did that with the cutting board. It's something the homeowner really wanted, and it's not something that I have a great reason why I don't like it. It's just my personal preference.
Yeah.
So having said that, we obviously went ahead and made it for them.
Because they want it.
That's what they wanted, and it looks good. It works. It does exactly what he needs. Like you said, they're not professional chefs. They're not going to be like cooking crazy meals here, and they have. You could see them in the video. There's several other countertop cutting boards that they have available for when they are cutting up probably larger things. So it's not like this is the only cutting board they have. It was just something that was important to him.
Yeah.
And that's fine. Like we're not here to dictate what somebody's kitchen is going to look like and how it's going to function.
Yeah.
And then, for the people, everybody's always going to have something to say. Like there's going to be, we're focusing on the negative comments, but how many positive comments were there?
No, and this particular one is a very polarizing
thing.
Like where some people are like,
loved it or
this is
hated
awesome.
it.
Right.
Yep. And I think that's going to be the case with just about anything.
Yeah.
A lot of it is just really laughable in people's opinions. It reminds me of whenever we do like a 1/4 inch reveal or 1/2 inch reveal on the bottom of something on the floor, people are like, so much trash is going to get stuck in there. Like, it's going to be so hard to clean. Like, no, it's not. Like they're making it, I think, more than what it needs to be.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, just you do you. We're gonna continue to do us.
And that's to be said. First of all, to each their own. This is not us. Everyone loves to say, everyone's getting hurt feelings or whatever. Look, everybody at this company works their butt off, and we deserve the right to defend what we're, making.
Yeah.
And when it's free to just go on there and trash hard work that people have put in.
Yeah.
And people have paid good money for it. And it kind of irks me sometimes. Look, you have the right to do that. There's comments, good for you. But at the same time, we reserve the right to say, hey, this is what the client wanted. Mm-hmm. We crushed it, and we're going to show it off.
Yeah, 100%.
Actually, I thought it was kind of fun. Because I know there are some times when I just want to cut a lime or something. And I don't want to get out a cutting board. I just want
to have it right there.
I just want to cut it, move on.
That's fair. Yeah.
I kind of liked it. But
okay,
I
so
get it.
To each their own, right? Like that's kind of like the moral or the point of this whole argument here. And that's not to say that people who are commenting saying that it's wrong or they don't like it are wrong. You're entitled to your opinion, and that's fine.
Absolutely.
And a lot of the times, the difference of opinion is what helps to elevate, the next thing. It's like, hey, you shouldn't have done that. You should have done this. It's like, oh, no way. I never thought of that. And now the next one's going to be even better.
And the great majority of those, of that input, it's great constructive criticism.
Yes.
Pushing stuff forward.
Mm-hmm.
No problem with that. That is crucial. It's just the kind of petty things. Matt Moore with some wisdom.
Hold on.
Little Matt
before we read it though, I know Matt did one of these recently. So
what?
The cutting boards with a hole in there.
Oh.
So I wonder if
I
What does he got? What does he got? Let's see.
You're creating artwork. It may not be someone's genre. It does not discredit the artist.
Matt has an excellent point. And to kind of like what Nick does is he goes on, because this was on Nick's page, the NS page. He goes on and just replies with something quirky and fun. And
oh yeah, this doesn't faze Nick at all.
That like stirs the pot with them. Like that just makes them even madder.
They double down into their logic, which is always fun.
And then most of the time, the people who do kind of respond negatively to that, they're just looking for an argument or looking to troll.
For sure.
So they'll continue on and just kind of going down a rabbit hole of something that's not even related.
Yeah.
And it's like 90% of the times they're people without profile pictures, without any public posts or any posts at all, or if they do, they're not posting any of their work. So it's like, sorry.
If you're not stepping up to post your woodworking,
if it was somebody that was,
not going to take your opinion on it, but
right, it's somebody who I looked up to, and they were kind of talking to me that way. One, kind of disrespectful, I think, to speak to someone like that. But if they're like, hey, look, you shouldn't do that because X, and kind of, like we were talking about educating.
A lesson,
Then it's like, oh, shoot, let's say Matthew Chase, they who I do admire, does amazing work, and is just like this wealth of knowledge. And if he were to kind of school me on something, I'm going to listen to it.
Absolutely.
It's like, hey, let's explore that. And, he's doing very well for himself. Clearly, he's on the right track here and knows something. Yeah. So you just got to roll with it.
I just thought we had this almost identical conversation yesterday. I just thought it'd be fun to
rehash.
Yeah.
Bring it up. Well,
and we got Matt's nice wisdom, and
it'll be interesting to hear, what you guys are thinking too. So, kind of let us know your thoughts and how you guys are handling the trolls. Let's call them.
I wouldn't even say handling. How does it
affect you?
Yeah. How does it come into your psyche? I guess. How does it?
I'm going to design this whole project based on what
comments.
Other people think.
Well, there's a good quote. It's a British designer. I can't remember his name, Sir something. He said, "A camel is a horse designed by a committee." And it's not that a camel's bad, but that quote's always kind of stuck with me. That might be a great stopping point. Oh wait, Matt, coming in hot. Constructive criticism for educating is completely different from trolling, imposing your opinion. Yep.
100%.
Yep. Thank you, Matt. All right. Well, I think that's it.
Cool.
Thanks for joining in. I didn't see any more questions. Y'all should be a followers voted on kitchen.
That reminds me of what I was thinking a minute ago too. Is there's this girl. It's older now, I think, a couple years old. I'm a little behind on YouTube, and she was like a YouTube star or like songwriter, and she took a bunch of negative comments and just makes songs out of them all. It's actually pretty funny. So maybe we should do that. We'll just take all the negative comments and make a kitchen out of. What would that look like?
Hey, would it be a camel?
I think it would be a mess.
Not to discredit camels. Camels are great. You should do followers voted on kitchen. Maybe we will. Maybe we will.
Oh, and look who joined right at the right time.
Sam.
Bye, Sam.
Good day.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.
We'll see you.
Wow.
That works too.
Great stuff.